Shohei Otani took the mound today. Also went into the batter's box, but made history, according to him at least. Well, for him at least. His fastest pitch ever. 102 miles per hour. In 2 innings, scoreless, 1 hit, 1 walk, 1 strikeout for Otani, the pitcher.
The pitcher.
Otani, the hitter, looked like he was facing Otani, the pitcher. 3 strikeouts, 0 for 4 on the day. Now, obviously, it would be absurd and ludicrous and ridiculous for me to come on the radio today and say, Alex Monaco,
yep,
cancel the experiment. Shohei Otani, look, he can't hit 0 for 3, 4. I mean, 0 for 4, he obviously can't hit when he's pitching. I'm not doing that. Because we've seen the proof of concept when he was in Anaheim. We saw how that worked. I am willing to give one of the best hitters that I have ever seen with my own 2 eyes a chance to go ahead and give that runway to get back into the groove of things, as he admittedly is doing, and saying that, hey, he said through an interpreter today, not the new one, the new interpreter, said, I don't think I'd be able to do it in a live batting practice setting. It was nice to be able to hit this in a game, right? So him getting these game reps matters for him. So, okay, he says he's got to work through it in a game. Do you agree?
I agree inherently. Again, like you said, what he did down the 5 freeway goes without saying there in Anaheim. He clearly wants to double dip. The 3 Ks 0 for on a loss against KC doesn't land great, but you got to remind ourselves it's 162. My question to you is, Martin, the pitching staff, clearly a crowded room, almost as crowded as the Browns depth chart at quarterback. Is this as necessary in July as we approach it, late June, to get these reps in and maybe cost your team wins and losses like today, 9-5?
See, no, I'm willing to sacrifice. I don't know what the number is, but I'm willing to sacrifice a couple losses to see if I can get Shohei Otani's arm to a place where, we've seen it throughout his career. If that throws off the rhythm for a couple, I'm fine with that. Especially, too, because I know the Dodgers pitching staff is, generally injury list is longer than a CVS receipt. But, we'll see how that all plays out. But let's say everybody is healthy, then you're telling me that I can get maybe a reliever coming out of the bullpen, or like warming up. Like I could, the idea of having Otani be a pitcher doesn't necessarily mean he has to just be a starting pitcher. He could pitch a lot of different places. Like we've seen him have success in these 1-inning outings, 1 and 2 innings today. So yeah, I'm willing to experiment it. And you are as well. So that's what I thought. That's not a terribly ridiculous question, but he did start today. But here's the one that I think is a close cousin of that question.
Talk to me.
But this guy doesn't have the bona fides built up that Shohei Otani does. He doesn't have what we saw in Anaheim. But we did it in Boulder. How long, if in fact Travis Hunter has the equivalent of 2 scoreless innings and 0 for 4, say Travis Hunter say he plays every snap offense and defense and, only has 3 catches on 6 targets for 30 yards or something like that. And like the other 3 were drops, right? But defensively, he's locking up everything, right? Defensively, Jamar Chase is in absolute hell, hypothetically speaking, right?
All right.
How long do you play Travis Hunter? Like how long are you going to run him out there for every single play?
This goes almost a step back, Martin, to what kind of energy is the Jacksonville Jaguars post Dougie P bringing into the year? Are they desperate? Are they closer to abundance? Kind of tough off a 4-13 season to say they're closer to abundance. I'm still of the belief you roll him out on both sides. If he's one of one, as this is about conditioning, right? To me, I think managing his mental is one piece of the puzzle. The conditioning, if it's there and he can do it, why not give him at least a month to see how it goes? A little Costco sample.
So you say a month. So about 4 games in. That a month is 4 games. But to your point, I don't think it's just conditioning. I think conditioning is a prerequisite. But there has to be also the requisite ability fundamentals established. Like, all of that has to be in play because, like, and I'm not saying that he can't do it. I'm not saying that he won't do it.
Yeah.
I'm saying it's going to be incredibly difficult. And I think anybody who thinks this is going to be an easy and seamless transition, I think that you're in for a rude awakening.
So do you take today's Otani line and sort of look at that could very much be what a Travis Hunter Sunday looks like?
I think like this. I think if Shohei Otani had come out and gone, let's extrapolate today out for a month.
Yeah.
Right? And he ends up with he's 2 for 52 from the plate.
Right.
Over that stretch, but he's pitched, 31 scoreless innings and, has given up, with 17 strikeouts in a month. Like, I think that I would be having some real conversations about this. But that's baseball, though. So maybe it's just, hey, we're going to work on them to get better at this. The difference between football is what happens when you just gave up a 75-yard touchdown and we want to run a bubble screen on the next play because we got to get,
And you don't want it to be to Brian Thomas. You want it to be to
we want it to be to you,
yeah.
right? So it's like how, and obviously, you scheme around that. You plan around that. Well, you'll be the only team in the NFL having to do that.
It does pose an interesting conundrum. It seems like now the speed, obviously, the NFL isn't even pales in comparison as you hear former players talk about it from college. Do you feel like out the gate, can you hypothesize one side of the field being more natural to him, and then you kind of go from there? Because on defense, if he's a lockdown cover corner and that's what he is, he'll probably play more snaps than not. On offense, you do have the luxury with, 5 wide receivers to intermingle them here and there and give them little bits of breaks. But do you think there is maybe a serious problem here if there isn't one side of the field being more strong than the other?
Well, the thing that makes me wonder the most is and he should feel this way. He absolutely should. But he is of the utmost confidence that he is going to be able to do this without a problem, without a doubt whatsoever. Every single quote, he's like, dude, there's 24 hours in the day. I sleep 8 of them. That's 20, or was it 16 to figure out the rest of football? I'll use 8 for defense, 8 for offense, right? Like, and you hear that type of attitude, and that's exactly what you want to hear. Similar attitude, what you hear of Cooper Flagg when Jason Kidd's in his introductory press conference saying, this kid would rather be not working out right now instead of being here talking to you jerks, right? So get that, and I love that, and that's the attitude you have to have. Now, the other thing is the Jaguars also seemingly have the exact same attitude towards him. Now, the GM's younger than me, so it's his first go-round, and this is his first pick, and he made a big trade to go get him. And he said after that, quote, first and foremost, when there's an opportunity to be bold, we're not going to flinch. And he says, we're adding people who are intangibly rich, and Travis is, in fact, as a player, rare. And went on to say, trying to find the exact quote, but he went on to say, here we go, there are players that have capacity to alter a game. There are players that have capacity to alter the trajectory of a team. There are very few players who have the capacity to alter the trajectory of the sport itself.
What a line for a first-time GM.
They've never played a snap in the league, right? So that's what we're talking now. I think it's absolutely fair that at Little League Diamonds around America, dads are saying, well, Shohei Otani does this. Why can't little Mikey? Right? Like, why can't Mikey try it?
I love it. Now, let me ask you this. Do you think you'd feel more confident if he played in the SEC, the Big Ten? You're a Michigan man. Had he played against a non-Colorado schedule, would we be looking at the painting a little differently?
I don't think so. That's a good question, though.
Because
and it's not a good question because I don't have like an answer. Like most people say that's a good question when they're like trying to think about it.
Yeah.
I just had never considered the fact had he played against quote unquote better competition because I just thought he dominated the competition he was playing against. So
and he did. But let me ask you this, Martin, because he was coached by Dion, a guy that also is a Travis Hunter type athlete in his heyday. Are we sitting here, if we are playing the other side and not being optimistic, are we feeling like this is a little bit of a sales pitch and the Jaguars took the bait and they're going to end up with a product that couldn't be nearly what he could be because he is pitching and hitting metaphorically as Otani did today. And to your point off the top, 0 for 4, 3 Ks.
So that's my thing. Is like if we watch, I wonder just how much of a conversation inside Jacksonville they're having on the back end, right? Because like let's say he gets to the league and has trouble making tackles, just making tackles, right?
Great point. Like, that's a great thought.
And there are corners in, you probably got them off the top of your head, but there are corners that go into the draft every single year that they say this guy has trouble tackling, and then they go into the NFL, and guess what? They have trouble tackling. Like, I'm not saying that Travis Hunter is going to just necessarily have trouble, but the idea that he is going to walk in and be A++ at both receiver and cornerback is one that is very hard for me to agree to see. Now, it could happen 2-3 years from now. All right, I'm willing to accept that. But how long of a runway do you give him?
And to add to that and throw it to you, I'm looking at the first 5 weeks of the season. Mahomes, the Niners, C.J. Stroud and the boys out of Houston. They got the Bengals looking to prove to everyone in the whole world. Let's say they start out 1-3, 1-4. This is not the Dodgers. This is the exact opposite. A low self-esteem, non-winning franchise that's tried to reshuffle a number of ways. Do you have a shorter leash when you roll out Hunter on both sides of the depth chart if you're losing out the gate?
Look, man, the plan they say in Jacksonville is to learn, primarily focus on offense while learning defense throughout the offseason. That's also the way I would have approached it. I also think with a kid like this, you have to give him the opportunity.
Right.
You have to give him the chance. I think he has earned, this may come out wrong, he has earned the right to fail, right? It's just how long of a leash does he get? You just talked about he's going up against, that's 3 AFC Pro Bowlers in the first 4 games?
Facts.
Between Burrow, Mahomes, and you said Josh Allen?
No, they got the Texans.
Okay, C.J. Stroud.
They got Burrow. They got Mahomes. And in between 2 AFC playoff teams, they go to San Francisco.
And however you feel about Brock Purdy, I know this is true about Kyle Shanahan. If you have a weak link on your defense, it will be a long day for that player.
You guys need to also remember the Jaguars are actually pretty good at receiver outside of Travis Hunter. I mean, Brian Thomas Jr. comes to mind. I know they just signed someone, too. They have a pretty good...
Christian Kirk?
Christian Kirk is
a Texan now.
Yeah, that's terrible radio right now to not have that off the top of my head. But the point is their receiving core is pretty good outside of Hunter. So do you guys agree with them starting him on offense? It almost seems like they need him a little more in the secondary, no?
But I think...
It's a good thought.
To the point is if they're going to start him on offense and then work him into the defense... then I'm thinking of where you're looking is more so you have so much more control over who plays on offense than you do on defense. You have so much more control over your substitution patterns. You have so much more control over who's going to be involved in the action on offense.
Also, you're not throwing him, facing off against Pat Surtain in week 1 versus, guarding Jamar Chase and stuff. Like, the other team's best corner is going to be on Brian Thomas to start the year.
Well, I'm looking at it, boys. Bottom 10 passing offense last year, and I'm looking at their pass defense, and their pass defense was worse in the NFL. They gave up 257, the worst in the NFL.
No one is making the claim that this was a good team last year.
No, I mean, is it the perfect storm for the worst thing to happen, though? This feels, we're 90s kids. I don't want to get a little maddened with it. This is a little video game fringe, like, can we put this guy 100%. All over the field?
This is video game fringe stuff. That's why it's like, we'll see if it works. Like, I'm not counting it out altogether, but I will say this. I also am not taking or placing any bets on Travis Hunter, offensive or defensive rookie of the year.
How about overs or unders?
I'll take all unders.
It's worth a thought.
Sight unseen. Like, you got to. Hey, if I lose those bets, I tip my cap to you, Travis.
That's
I
facts.
tip my cap to you.